imposter syndrome. I'm so excited for this topic of conversation today because I'd say imposter syndrome is a silent killer. Like so many people have so much potential to do amazing things and they know what to do. They know the steps. They bought the courses. They bought the book. And the only thing that's holding them back is, am I an imposter if I try this? Or what if I do this? And all the doubts and fears in their head. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that cause imposter syndrome and the ways that it shows up and the ways that we can actually tackle it and overcome it. And I have one of our incredible team members, Jess, here, who's trained probably over 100 people at this point, maybe more, to talk about it.
Hi, I'm so happy to be talking about it. Thanks for having me. Like, I do think this is something not only we see in our community, but just like across the board is a popular subject or something that a lot of people can relate to in regards to like feeling an imposter. So I'm excited to break it down. It's definitely something I have felt in the past too. So I think maybe a good place to start would just be kind of like looking at what is it, if we were to break it down, what causes the feeling of imposter syndrome? Because it's something we do hear people saying a lot. So when we just look at imposter syndrome, what is it and what causes it?
Totally. Okay. So in our program, we talk a lot about hypnosis. And my personal belief is we've heard that word imposter syndrome so much. It's almost like we hear it and then we're like, that's us. And it kind of like hypnotizes us to not take action because I have imposter syndrome. So typically if somebody comes to me and they're like, I have imposter syndrome, I actually have to break it down and ask, what does that mean to you? Because I think sometimes people take this label and they hold on to it and then they use that as a reason to not do anything. So for some people, imposter syndrome shows up as, I got this opportunity, but I don't know if I'm actually good enough to do it or perform. Or I got this opportunity and everyone's going to find out that I'm actually not supposed to have this opportunity, right? And then another big way that it shows up is who am I to, right? So someone might have gone on a fitness journey and lost a lot of weight, but then they're telling themselves like, who am I to give someone fitness or health advice? Or might have, started to manifest something amazing. Like, who am I to give advice online? So it's like, because no one has given them permission, they haven't received that permission. So they're calling it imposter syndrome as if like the permission is just going to like fall out.
Yeah, like suddenly I'll do something and I'll feel enough for it. It's so true.
Yeah. And you're right too. I think it does drill down to a lot of the time people saying like, I'm not good enough, so I must be an imposter. When really you're already good enough. Like when we're born as little babies, we already believe that we're good enough. Like we're going to cry and scream and tantrum until we get what we want. Feed me, yeah, whatever, play with me, things, noise. But then so somewhere through us growing up, through us being programmed by society, that literally gets beaten out of like, well, I can't make a video online because I don't have a master's degree, and I can't write a book because somebody else wrote a book on the topic and theirs is probably going to be better than mine. So yeah, we just, like a lot of the time, I really do think that people just take this blanket term, imposter syndrome, put it on them like a label, and then say, I don't have to move forward because I have imposter syndrome, when really it just as easily as you gave yourself the label that you have imposter syndrome, you can give yourself the label of, I'm going to try this and I'm going to figure this out as I go. And I'm just going to do my best and I'm going to learn along the way.
Right. So many things I was relating to in what you just said.
Yeah, that's 100%. The difference between people who don't see any success and do see success. The ones who don't see success say, I'm going to wait. Like, you know, when I was growing up, I had to raise my hand and ask to go to the bathroom. And so now I'm going to raise my hand and wait for someone to start my dream business or make the sale or go after marketing or whatever. Whereas the people who just create success, they don't wait for something outside of them to give them permission. They say, I have this feeling, I have this nudge that I want to do this thing. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. So I'm going to just go after it. I see this little on Instagram sometimes that says the same God that gave you the idea is the same God that will give you the client. So it's like, if you got that idea and that idea was given to you, do the things, like be a participant in your success so you can see the outcome of taking the action.
Be a participant in your success. It's so true. A couple of things really were coming up for me as you were speaking, and one was just a really tangible example of an identity. So when I was 16, I was at dance college and I was in the first year, and we could all audition for this piece, and I got like the main part in this dance piece. And I was so thrilled. And throughout the auditions, I was so confident and I was nailing it. And there was this big turn bit and I had to balance at the end, and he did it spot on every time. And then as soon as I got the role, some of the older girls didn't like that I had got the role, right? And from that point onwards, I was never able to do the turn again, even in the show.
That's like
The
some
same
people
body.
through. That's
Put it.
That's pleasing coming through. Because
Right.
it's like you had the ability, but something in you wanted to shrink down to appease them instead of reaching your own potential. And I feel like that's the theme of so many women. Like, we shrink down to appease everyone else or make everyone else feel more comfortable and safe instead of rising up to what we know we're capable of doing.
Right. And the effect it had on the body. And then because I couldn't do it, I started feeling like an imposter. I shouldn't have got this role. I'm not good enough for this role. But I thought it was a really good, because normally in life, we're not doing a turn where we have to balance for a count. So it's hard to measure the effect it's having on the way we show up. But in that example, you can see before I could do it perfectly every time. After, I couldn't do it anymore. And you see it with athletes and artists in the public eye. Sometimes when they get to such a high stage, or they get a really role with a lot of pressure, the imposter syndrome or whatever it is that's driving it can freeze their body in the moment. It does the same for us all. Like you said, we're wearing that badge and it's keeping us in that space. Like, I hadn't thought this before, but as you were talking, I remember when I first started coaching, I was sharing videos. It wasn't even my voice that was the imposter. It was hearing what I thought everyone else was going to think of me because of what I've heard people around me say negatively about others. So, who am I to be sharing this information, and who am I to be teaching people? And I think that can become a really hard loop, because you're normally comparing yourself with somebody who has been doing it for longer, or is at a completely different stage in your journey. So you're comparing yourself, you're waiting to be where they are, but you can't be there without starting. And so it just becomes this like really stuck place to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they started where you were. They just did the work to get there. Like, I'm thinking like Tony Robbins. I was listening to a podcast he was on recently, and it's like when he would first start doing his NLP, his UPW essentially, or his Date with Destiny essentially, it was like in a hotel room with like 50 people. I remember him saying, like, I expected about 50 people to show up. And now he doesn't, and there's like thousands. But if he didn't start in that whole room, he wouldn't be he is now. And then we say, well, who am I to do that? Well, it's like, you got to start like at part A. But going back to what you were saying about like athletes and performance, I feel like this is why HRV, like what we teach in the master certification, is so important, because I think what happens there when you create some sort of success and then you can't perform, or in your situation, it's like your subconscious was recognizing that there was actually a threat when you were successful. When you were auditioning, there was no threat because you just wanted to create it. But then once you got it and these other girls were like, oh, they're jealous of you, maybe they're going to beat you up, now there's a threat. Now you're not in your parasympathetic nervous system. You're in fight or flight. So when you're in fight or flight, you're not connected to your subconscious. You're not able to like perform at your highest potential and access your creativity. Your body just wants to survive. Like, it's like getting the blood to your extremities so you can run away. It's not getting you to do the most beautiful, like, creative, artistic moves. And so this is where what we teach with breath work and the master certification comes in, because we show our clients how to help their clients regulate their heart rate and regulate their heart rate variability, so that even if you're standing on stage, even if you're, doing a competition that you've never done before, you're in a place that you've never been before, your body is reacting like you're in that calm, sympathetic state. So you can actually perform, so you can access your subconscious. So that is so important.
It's so true. All of the work really helps when it comes to kind of maintaining your autonomy over yourself and the state that you're in. But I think the breath work, if I had known breath work and if we had been taught it as artists and performers, I think everyone would have had a better wellness and better performance, across personal life and professional life.
Yeah, or EFT too. EFT is so good. Just in the moment, just going like this and like letting the energy flow through your body. Another big thing you got me to think about too is that little voice in your head that say, oh, you can't do it. And I can relate, because I used to have a whole party like living in my head. And the best tool I think that helped me release that is parts.
Because really?
Those little voices in your head, they're actually trying to help you, even though they're mean and they're like, you're not pretty enough to do this, you're not good enough to do this, no one will ever listens. They're parts that are trying to protect you, because they want you to do what you've always done, because they remember that was safe. Like when you just work in your little job and you just hid in your little corner, that was safe. So I'm going to tell you that you're not pretty enough and you're not good enough, so that you stay in that little thing, because I remember that was safe. But when we talk to the parts, we can actually tell the parts, part, you know what the safest thing is for me? It's me creating more abundance. It's me realizing my potential. It's me expressing myself, because my emotions are better expressed out of my body than suppressed and potentially creating harm and disease in my body. So parts integration helps that part see, like, I can be safe and reach my potential. I can be safe and do a live stream. I can be safe and do my dance, because I'm now integrated into the whole that's now capable
of working together.
Yeah.
It's so true. I actually wouldn't be even in this conversation if it hadn't been for parts integration, because I did the SPI method kind of just before and around COVID times. And then after I'd learned it, I did a parts integration on part of me wanted to go back to being a dancer and part of me wanted to go all in on being a coach. And it just had this real pull. But actually, it was that familiar part that was saying, you're not good enough to be a coach. No one's going to pay you. Nobody's going to listen to you. Let's go back to dancing. We know you got this. We know it's safe. But my desire was saying, move forward, move on. And after I did the parts integration, that's what I chose to do.
Wow, that is
and here we are.
Cool. And did you do that while you were going through the certification?
Yeah, I did that while I was doing the certification, and then I fully went into it felt like a huge leap, but it did, by the time I did it didn't, because it was just, I had done the techniques on that specifically.
Mm-hmm. I think another big reason why we have imposter syndrome too is because we take on a lot of labels. So maybe we learned about a label in a movie or the media or from something our parents model to us, and then we take that on as, I have to live out that label. So one big theme that comes up for me when I'm doing parts integration with someone is part of me wants to be a mom and part of me wants to be successful. Where did they learn that you can't be a mom and be successful? Usually it's maybe if they saw their mom stay at home or their mom struggle, or from watching TV, they only see like moms in a certain way. Like for anything that we're doing, we don't have to just take on the identity that we see and live that out. We are multidimensional beings, so we can actually be multifaceted in whatever it is that we're doing. We can be a successful stay-at-home mom. We can be a successful mom in the workplace. We could be a successful stay-at-home mom who makes money staying at home. That's like my vibe. Right? Like we can make it your own. I remember when I first had Isaiah, I was doing coaching with someone, and I was talking about this this like juxtaposition, and she asked me such a powerful question that has stayed with me to this day. She said, what if you could make your child a partner in your success. And it stopped, like, I still work through it from time to time, but it's a good reminder to me of like, I don't have to do everything separate. I can do things like a part of it, right? Like sometimes I get great ideas when I'm playing with my kids because I'm in that state of joy, or like whatever, like we can make things our own.
It's so true. And that's so powerful that they get to witness that and recognize that you can have the, it's not all separate. And I think that you know that we can kind of be this expansive human with these multifaceted ways of being and expressing ourselves, and that's okay. So I just love, I can't wait to see how these kids grow up. I
Yeah.
think
And like you've seen me do calls with them in the background, and like I want them to know all this stuff and I teach them, but also how cool is it if I'm on a call and they're hearing it, they're hearing how I teach it, they're hearing the questions, like it's all going in. Like I feel like my best case scenario is if they know all of these sub tools even younger than I did.
is, and there's, I mean, that's no doubt because they're so surrounded by it, and even the way you speak to them is has got all of this work within it, but then they're also hearing it in the background, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Sorry, what were you gonna
I
say?
think, no, I think another imposter syndrome, I don't know if this is like a British thing, but
Hmm.
one thing that people say a lot is, who does she think she is?
Right. And
And
then we hear
I've,
too, who do you think you are?
yeah, who do
Yeah.
you think you are? And it's like, I feel more likable when I'm struggling, or I felt, I'm going to just say, you know, I felt more likable when I was struggling rather. So that would be another imposter thing, like, or maybe a cause of imposter syndrome is that actually I'm more likable if I don't really believe in myself. I'm more likable if I don't think I'm all that. People are going to think I'm arrogant if I really own. But there's always normally a part of you that knows you can do it. There's a part of you that knows you're good enough. There's a part of you that knows you're more than good enough, and you have this talent and this thing that needs to be shared with the world. And that's why you're in there. But this other part of you feels like no one's gonna like me, or they're gonna think I'm arrogant, or I won't be likable. Who does she think she is? And I think that the parts integration is actually spot on when it comes to all kinds of imposter syndrome. It's like this other part just trying to protect you, and that's what's making you feel like an imposter.
I love that. I have heard that question in my head so many times, like, who do you think you are? But actually, like, we can reframe that too. Because what if it's just like, who do you think you are? Like, it's time to make a decision. Like, it's a journaling prompt, right? Like, if we're in indecision, like, oh, maybe I have to pretend to not be successful to be likable. Maybe I have to do this, maybe I do that. It's like maybe we have to make a decision of like, who do you think you are? Because everyone will respond to us how we respond to ourselves. It's the Pygmalion effect, right? Like if we see ourselves in a certain way, when we talk to someone, they start to see us like that. And then they respond to us like that. They respond differently. And then that tracks, compounds how we see ourselves, and then it creates a loop. So it's like we could say, who do I think I am? Like who do you are? And then you could say, I'm the person who I am successful and people like me. Like period.
Yeah. And actually, that's so true because I think it's like the way it's been asked in my mind, or the way we even shared it before, it's like, who do you think you are? It's like a statement, but it's actually a question. And yet leading to answer, yeah, who do I think I am? I think that I am someone who's capable. And just because I'm capable, does that mean my integrity changes, my heart changes? The things that people like about me, do they change because I'm successful? No. And then you question it, and then you have this amazing new belief about yourself. Did we just completely break down how to make That's so true. I love that.
Yeah, this is how to break down imposter syndrome. Go from who do you think you are to who do you think you
Who do you
are?
think you are?
And decide who you are. I'm the person who can be successful and learn as I grow and learn as I go. And people will like me when I do things well, and people will accept and support me if I make a mistake as I continue to figure it out, but I'm always going to show up the best for me and the best for everyone around me.
That feels like a warm hug. I feel like everyone needs to go and journal on that. Because the thing is with imposter syndrome, the goalpost will always move. There's never gonna it's not going to go away when you have more people in the room or when you have more clients, or there'll always be something, because it's not about your success, it's about how you feel about yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. I can't remember where I saw this or where I read this or where I heard this, but it was something along the lines of like, sometimes we might show up in a certain way to get people to like us or accept us or be more relatable or whatever it is, but that's actually a form of manipulation. Like if someone knows they're capable of being here, but then they're acting like they're here, you're actually manipulating other people to like you or manipulating other people to treat you a certain way or whatever it is, because you're not acting like who you actually are. So I don't remember where that or where I saw that, but it's so true.
It's like I used that example the other day actually with a friend who's people pleasing, and I did that is something that I still face and have to work through, but it used to be a real leader in my life. And he said, if someone you loved was only saying yes because they were scared that you wouldn't like them or you would be mad at them, but they actually wanted to say no, like how upset would you be? Like it is like you'd be like, no, my goodness, don't say no. But like you're not honoring anybody by doing that, and you are kind of manipulating the outcome. So so if you're manipulating the outcome from what you've just said, what is the answer? How do you come back to walking in your truth and owning who you are?
I think it goes back, like authenticity is such a like kind of like cheesy overused word, but I think that's the way it is, because I see so many women who are capable of so many things but minimize it because of fear. What if they judge me? What if they're jealous? What if they try to take something from me? Da 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 da. I remember when I first started one-on-one coaching, I was working with this incredible client. So she started working with me. She wanted to work on business stuff. And as I got to know more about her, I was like, you know everything. Like in my head, I'm like, why did you hire me? She knew the strategy. She knew the launch. Da, da, da. And then when we got into talking, what we unearthed was when she was young, she was in, I can't remember if it was skating or dancing. Let's pretend it's skating. So she was in skating, and she graduated to the next level of skating because she was one of the best, and her friends all stayed at the previous level. And that hurt her. And so she equated being successful with being alone. And so now, even though she consciously wanted success in her business, she wanted to make more money and get more reach, she was stifling herself and not doing what she knew she wanted to do, because on a deep subconscious level, there was the belief that if I become more successful than the people I love, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be isolated. I'm going to be the only one there.
Wow, and actually being alone is like the last thing that the body or the mind would want. You want to be surrounded by people, connection, and love.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we worked through it, and she had a really, really successful launch right after. And it's so powerful when we work through those limiting beliefs. And so going back to your question of like, how do we release that imposter syndrome? I think it's like showing up in that authentic way and achieving what we know we're capable of doing and not holding ourselves back because of doubt, and starting to instill the belief of like, if the people around me love me, they're going to love me whether I have $1 in my bank account or $1 million in my bank account. They're going to love me if I have 5,000 followers on Instagram or 5 million followers on Instagram, because me being lovable and me being good enough isn't tied to my success or external accolades. Me being lovable and acceptable to the people that I love is because I'm lovable and acceptable no matter what. But I'm going to achieve what I want, or I'm going to go after what I want, because that is what I want, and I am capable of reaching my potential. And potentially, when I reach my potential, I can inspire or help other people reach their potential too.
Right. So you've overcome it and you've also connected it to something greater than. You know, the image I'm really getting of imposter syndrome, like a visual that's coming up in my mind is like imposter syndrome's like the tiger, like protector part. Like it's like this, don't, I'm a protector part, so I'm just gonna like keep us here because that's what imposter syndrome tends to do. But if you move the tiger out the way, there's like a version of you that's like, I'm getting this visual like crouched behind the tiger almost, you know, like, yeah, like, oh, and no, so it's not just about releasing imposter syndrome, it's about what is imposter syndrome protecting you from, working on that, and then you're free from it. And your tiger can be along your side, like walking with you rather than blocking everything from you.
Yeah, you're right. I think in so many ways we're trying to protect ourselves from being hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I succeed more than others and people judge me or they isolate me or they ostracize me, I'm going to be hurt. And I don't want to be hurt, so I'm not even going to go there.
Right, right. Let's not even go there. Let's not even entertain it. And what's the best way to not entertain it is to believe that I can't do it. But it's not true. And it actually, do you know what? Just to one more, I know we've been going quite a long time, but one more thing is like, not everything we think is true. That's such a simple, quote, thoughts are not facts. But it just comes back to it. It's like just because part of your mind is saying you can't do that, that's just a thought. It's that there's no truth in it. And I think that imposter syndrome just allow the biggest issue is that we allow it to consume us and we believe it. But you said earlier, I can't remember if it was on this call or not, but you said earlier, like, if like if God gave you the vision or the dream, he's going to deliver to, it was this one, it was like 2 minutes ago, Jess. But it's true, like the thought is not bigger than the purpose that you begin. If the purpose and the dream is there, it's because it's meant for you, and it's because of course you can do it. Of course you can. And that's why the imposter syndrome feels so frustrating, because actually at its very deep level, you know you're capable.
Yes. Yeah. And you're just letting the fear or the doubt hold you back. Yeah. But just like you believe in the doubt, you could believe in the opportunity.
Right. And I think the unearthing it and recognizing what's driving it and moving that, I think that's really what it is, in my opinion, from everything you shared. We have we spoken too long? Can we carry on?
I'm actually thinking, what if we tied it back to a few techniques that someone could do? So I think if someone's here and they're listening and they're saying, you know what, I am facing imposter syndrome. What do I do about it? I think the good question to ask yourself is, how specifically is imposter syndrome showing up for you? So is it showing up as, I'm getting opportunities, but I keep rejecting them because I'm worried I can't meet some made up expectation? Or is it showing up as, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it because I'm fearful that if I'm successful, people will ostracize me or talk bad about me or judge me, or I won't be loved because I'm not like how I always used to be. So ask yourself, how specifically is it showing up for me? Is it in something that I feel, something that I think, or something that I'm doing or not doing? And then when you know what that is, you can tackle it with a subconscious mindset technique. So we have so many great mindset techniques that you can try on yourself inside Yes, It's Yours. EFT is such a powerful tool to try on anything. Literally, just try it on anything to tap out something that's not serving you, or tap in something that could serve you or will serve you. And then if you're listening to this and you're like, this is amazing and I want to do this for myself and I want to do this for my clients, then I definitely encourage anyone listening to look into the SFI Method coaching certification, because you get to experience it on yourself as you work through the program, people will practice the techniques on you so you can move through your own imposter syndrome. And then you also can use it with your clients to create abundance around helping people with their mindset, which I think is the best job in the world.
100%. I couldn't agree more with EFT, working on just like anything with it. And also, when I'm looking back to when I did that parts integration, which is what Reese mentioned earlier about bringing those parts together, that's another technique we teach inside the SPI method. And also what's coming up for me is they did the parts integration on that part of me that wanted to dance still, part of me that wanted to become a coach and run a business. But then I also did Swish. And what Swish helped me do in that moment was create a vision in my mind of what it would look like if I really did it and believed those things. And it helped me step into that. Whereas before that, in my mind, I'd always been this struggling version of myself. That's who was in my mind. So after Swish, it felt a lot easier to show up as the version of me who genuinely believed that I could do it.
I love that. Swish is so powerful. And actually, we did a study using Swish, and when people internalized a belief that they could do something well with Swish, they performed 17% better. So just by
That's wild, isn't it?
Better than they did 17% better. So power to the tools.
Power to the tools. If only I'd had them at 16 when I was doing that turn. 16-year-old Jess, you're good enough, I promise.
Yeah, let her know. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all your incredible stories and insights, Jess. And for anyone watching, make sure to subscribe and keep checking back because we have more videos coming out on manifestation, on the science of mindset, and so much more.
And if you have any other questions about imposter syndrome, put them in and we can come on and talk about it even more, I'm sure.
Yeah, leave it in the comments.
All right.